Good afternoon, everyone. Um, my name is Hamza Lateef, and I'm going to be taking us through this presentation. I hope you have been enjoying our time from the beginning of the conference. Today, this section is going to be more of practical. I'm not hacking anything here. I just want to show us what people are doing and how we need to start paying attention to them. We are going to make this very interactive. So I'm looking for somebody who's going to take the mic around for us. I want us to talk. This conversation since yesterday has been more of, from this side to this side. So we want to do it the other way around. So we're going to be going through a couple of things. Some of these things, we are in the know of what I'm going to be showing us, some of them, but we need to kind of do some kind of critical analysis on these ideas that I'm going to be sharing with us so that we can get to see how it is affecting us together. This section revolves around us talking about election hacking and all of that. And it had been in the news. We've seen a whole lot of discussions around it, but now we are bringing it home. We want to look at it from a global perspective and how that can affect us, not just as a government, not just as a business, but even as an individual. And which is why I'm bringing into the context of this conversation what we call the virtual societal warfare. So basically, okay, I need to use, I'm trying to, okay. This is my introduction. Yes. So I'm moving forward to the outline of this conversation. We're going to be talking about virtual societal warfare. How many of us in the room have heard of cyber warfare? Let's start from there. Cyber warfare. Okay, we have a couple of people that are raising up their hands. So, but I would like to have somebody. If we have cyber warfare, what is virtual societal warfare? How are they related? We are going to be talking about that. So we move into election hacking. We are going to talk about the attack model. We are going to be talking about how we can mitigate and speaks to a couple of use cases. When we talk about virtual societal warfare, it's more of trying to do something that is a bit classical from what people are doing and trying to kind of touch the life of the citizens of countries without even having to come in physical contact with them. So basically, we're going to be doing some conversations around what all of these things are and how they can affect our system. So now, this is an emerging discussion. This is very particular stuff. What we call virtual societal warfare is an emerging threat, and it is everywhere in the developed countries. They've been playing with a couple of models. They've been playing with a couple of methodologies on how to do some of these things. So we need to know that, yes, this thing is here, and some people somewhere already are doing some research on implementing and using them. Basically, all of the discussions we had yesterday, they are around, threat intelligence from Madam Tawa. We have Mr. Ajijola. He gave us presentations around how we need governance and all of that. So in Nigeria today, imagine we are still thinking of how to kind of protect our computers. And yesterday, Mr. Ajijola mentioned the fact that now today's problem, today's risk is no longer about the computer. It's about the people like us. So we need to understand that this thing is out there for us. And in this context, we are going to be speaking to a couple of things. You can see the screen. For many people that have had conversations around some of this topic, we always take them from the little perspective, which is just a simple component. I think on the outline of the schedule for the conference, there is a section that is ought to be on fake news, isn't it? How many of us have heard of fake news, right? So a lot of people are in the know. And the discussions around that today in Nigeria is that this thing is all about fake news, but no. Fake news is just like a tiny part of the problem that we need to kind of address. So you can see the first point there. speaking to what we call hostile social manipulation. There's what we call hostile social manipulation. There's another thing we call virtual societal warfare. And there's what we call cyber infrastructure attack. So I'm going to show us something. I'm not expecting us to read all those things. But what you have in those definitions, they cut across what we call social manipulation. Disruption, social manipulation. Nobody is interested in attacking the device. We want to attack the people. We want to get into people's mind. We want to be able to stay somewhere and make them take some decisions. And that is the new risk that we're talking about. So, like, these components are what actually stick together, and we can say, okay, these are the things that we can be looking out for. But the conversation around this had been that all warfare, like, be it the physical domain, all of the domain of warfare that we know, the goal is to get to the people. So every other thing they are doing in that context is just a means to the end. If I try to kind of hack your server now, I'm having some kind of interest. If I deploy a ransomware on your network, I'm having a bigger interest. But deploying the ransomware is just an action for me to get to that end, which is my financial motivation. So we need to start looking at those things. And that is when we start taking the issue of cyber security serious as a country, as an individual. We need to start looking at it from this very general perspective. So now, if you look at these screens, so the mic is there. So for each of these images, I want people to participate. I want us to speak to these images if we know anything about them. Any of these images, you can just speak. If you want to say anything about any of these images, just to corroborate what I mentioned earlier. If you have anything from this image, what do we think is happening from this image that we have in there? Please, I want this to be somebody. There is no wrong answer. You can try. Exactly. Yes. Try. People don't want to talk. Let's talk. These are like 4. You can see there. This 1, 2, 3, 4. These are like 4 images. So this first one. Somebody want to say something?
Okay, I think the first one is on the hack on the pipeline in US.
Okay.
I'm trying to recall the name now.
Colonial Pipeline.
Yes. Yeah, and this other one, it looks like. No, I wouldn't. It does. It's not the Lagos building. I think it looks like. I know sometime last year, between the war with Israel and Iran, no, not. Is it Iran? Israel and Palestine. I remember at some point, Israel they noticed that there's an attack coming from a particular building, and what they just instead of maybe trying to negotiate or launch maybe the same level of cyber attack, they just released a missile, to destroy. I feel that could be it, looking at the building. Then the Bet Niger, of course, they had this attack as well earlier this year too, a ransomware attack. Then the JBS, I'm not familiar with that story. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that's a very good contribution there. Do you have another person that wants to try? So, like, what I'm trying to kind of paint here is that all of these things are attacks against supply chains, or maybe like a service, and at the end of the day, they are not, the end result is on the people. You can see this is the Colonial Pipeline attack. What people know in the news is that there is ransomware, but the social impact of that particular incident, there are a lot of queue out there that people couldn't get. This is the kind of chaos they want to cause. Now, moving to this second image, we are looking at something that speaks to a war that is ongoing between Russia and Ukraine. And as you can see, this is so obvious that, yes, they are trying to kind of destroy a building here. But, yes, the point here is not to just get the building down, but to get to the wheel, to get to the real target. This is an incident that we all know about is in the news, and we can see for a couple of days, these people that require these services, they could not access it. So that means there is a kind of financial implication for the organization. There's a kind of maybe loss on their part. So the last one is JBS. It's also a supply chain attack. This has to do with ransomware, but the bigger picture is that they are trying to disrupt a proper activity, and this can cause chaos, which we are going to kind of explore as we move on. So moving on, now I have these questions for everybody, and I want us to do a trial. When can we say there is a cyber warfare? When can we say there is a cyber warfare? Do we have anybody that wants to contribute? When can we say there is a cyber warfare? When can we say that? When can we say there is a cyber warfare? Anybody? Trial, no wrong answer. So now, this is a very good question because many people are expecting that maybe there will be okay, somebody want to try? Okay. Let's try. I just want this to be conversational so that we can pick the message. That's the interesting part of this. When can we say there is a cyber warfare? Yes.
Okay, I'm not very sure, but I think cyber warfare is the kind of cyber attacks that occur between nation states, not just organizations or anything. It involves nations fighting against each other using the cyberspace, cyber weapons.
Okay, that's pretty much what cyber warfare is. It's between two different sides, and they are trying to possibly destroy computer systems or information systems from not making them available for maybe the real users or to just cause some kind of disruption in the system. But the point here is there is one perspective that the media has painted about these things, which I'm going to be showing to us in the next slide. Now, there is what we call infrastructure attack. There is what we call information warfare, and there is what we call information operation. These are three different things. But when we talk about cyber warfare today, that definition you see up there is just more of something speaking to what cyber warfare, the picture that we have about it. So most of the time when we hear the word cyber warfare, it's always this first point that people used to speak to, infrastructure attack. If you look up here, it's the use of cyber attack between two sides just to destroy informational systems. So when I'm doing that, the only thing I'm doing is this. But the other component that we don't speak about, people don't talk about it, is this information warfare, this information operation part. And this component, when you bring them together, is what turns out to become what we call the virtual societal warfare component. These are things that are beyond what you can see. These are things that are beyond what your firewall can pick. So these are things that are beyond what your antivirus can see because they are not after this component called digital devices. They are after the human mind, and that is what this is all about. So we are going to be speaking to this extensively. We are going to see there is a bigger perspective to this topic, but for the purpose of this conversation, we are limiting it to just everything around election. So now, aside information warfare, which is the popularly conversation that we have, that popular conversation we know about cyber warfare, now there is what we call information operation. Currently, we are having this, the association is having its election. So just imagine that somebody just appeared online on Twitter and it was just out there and saying the platform has crashed, blah, 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 and all of that. You know what that will cause. So we are going to explore that out. So now, today, the bigger risks today, the issue of cyber conflict has taken a total new direction, which is what I want us to know. Now, it is not about the system. Now, we want to subvert the integrity of a political system, of a social system, of an economic system. We want to subvert the integrity. That's the game today. We want to be able to take out the trust from public institutions. Imagine you wake up and you get to the clinic and you want to have a prescription, and the data that was presented to the computer on the doctor's table is instructing the doctor to give you the wrong prescription. And they gave you that wrong prescription and you use it, and it it's going to have a kind of bad effect on your system. So now the point here is we want to be able to, they are trying to manipulate, distort, and disrupt. So this thing is beyond the normal fake news theory that we know or our new medias are kind of playing to us. We need to know it's a very bigger problem that we're having today. So imagine we cannot trust INEC, imagine we cannot trust our electoral system, imagine you cannot trust your doctor, you cannot trust the telecommunication sectors, because maybe, it's a whole lot of problems that this is painting. Now, these attacks, the way they come, they are very difficult to detect, they are very difficult to prevent, and you may not even know they are happening. So when I asked the other time that when do we say there is a cyber warfare, yes, as we are in this room, as we continue to leverage emerging technologies, we have that as a continuous aspect of human life. So from time to time, there is a progressive game, because you won't know. I will not come out as a country and tell you that, yes, I'm fighting this country, I've declared cyber warfare on them. It's only on physical battle you do that. So you can never tell who is against you or who is with you. So this is the problem, and we have to start looking at it. And this thing can be thrown into a digital network, that it will get to that mama Akara in the village, the man that it will get to everybody. So we need to start looking at that system. So now, if we have this problem, can our political system, can our democracies, can they withstand this problem? So I'm going there, I'm going close to where we need to be. So what do we understand by election hacking? Can somebody tell us? Anybody, no wrong answer. What do we understand by election hacking? What do we understand? You can try, yes. Do you have, okay, somebody want to try? What do you understand by election hacking? Yes. Do you have any, okay. Somebody is here. Let's have a try.
Right, so I would say it could happen in many different ways. You could be subverting the results. You could be sending out propaganda to the the voters.
Yes.
Putting all false claims in social media.
Okay.
Yeah, there are just so many different ways of hacking the election.
Thank you very much. I like the fact...
And even the systems that the voting, perhaps if there are machines or systems,
servers,
exactly, that can be hacked too.
As well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I like the fact that he mentioned that there are many ways to do this. But, there's this perspective we have about this conversation. It's always about, people have this perspective of, it is only when they change the number on the server. That is the general perspective of people. But the old way, which we are used to in Nigeria, is what I'm showing us now. Like when they buy the votes, when they try to rig the election by changing the ballot contents, when they try to kind of have some young people to come and just, cast the ballot out of nowhere. So this is the normal way. And in the conversation of our society today around election manipulation or what have you, is still to this. Even in the last election they did recently, some people were speaking to vote buying and all of that. So I'm telling you, but underneath this conversation, the other stuffs are ongoing, and we are going to be exploring that. So if you look at this, yes, these are the components that forms a society, or let's say an electoral component. So looking at this, you'll be seeing that we have the citizens. From these people, we have the media, the electoral officials, the voters, the political parties. They all belong to this class. Now, in a system that contains all of these people, there exists, we cannot take those things away, this component called that can be manipulated. The internal influence exists, like religion, ethnicity, current trends, and economic status of the society. All these things are there, living with them. Now, this is the government of the state. The government of the state is in conversation with different other government of state. So there could be what we call external influence due to political or economic interest. So just look at this. Now, the bad guys will take their coffee maker and start putting each of these components of internal influence and external influence, and they will start mixing them up together, throwing out those things we call fake news. That is just one unit of the component. So you see propagandas, you see, so to the extreme, yes, to the extreme. So now, if you look at the role play, the game is to subvert the trust we have in the Electoral Commission. And I'm going to show us all of this. That's the game, the end game. So that when they tell you that this is the winner, you come back and tell them that we did not believe you. No. There is something has happened. No, come back, no. So we continue to see this. Now, these are elections across the world. You can see different, these are elections across the world. We have Nigeria elections. We have those that are not even like proper presidential elections or what have you. These are things that has to do with electoral processes, and these are pictures just to depict what we are going to be speaking to. So now, moving forward, I'm going to be showing us some couple of operations. Some of them we are used to them. The research are documented. These are proper attributions and documentations to that some certain nation states have built frameworks. They've tested the frameworks and they've used those frameworks. And now they feel like they can control a whole lot of things, even beyond the electoral system of a society. So we're going to see that. And out of these countries on the map, we are going to be speaking to them. And these countries, from this map, we can just have a couple of guests around them. But I'm going to be pairing that up with our own election year in Nigeria. So Ukraine in 2014 had something, United States in 2016 had something, France in 2017 had a crisis around election crisis. For many people in this room, how many of us knew the fact that there was something around the France presidential election in 2017? A lot of people know about that of the United States. So we are going to speak to each of these things and we are going to see how it plays out. So this is our electoral year in Nigeria, 2015, 2011, 2019, 2023, which is the one that is upcoming. So now, looking at this slide, we are going to be pairing them up and we are going to be seeing what is happening at our own end. So in 2016, which is the popular one, everybody, do we have anybody that did not know about the conversation around the US election? Do you have anybody? No. Everybody's no. So now, the point here is, in 2016, some people claim that something happened to the election. The election was influenced, blah, 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 and all of that. It's a whole lot of story. But what was in the news was more of, okay, it was that serious attribution from one country to another country. Oh, this country influenced so country. That was what was in the news. That was what everybody was like, okay, how did they do it? They said they influenced the election. What did they really do? So in 2016, there are a whole lot of backup story. They hacked into the staffers of the campaign at DNC. At the end of the day, they were able to steal some huge political data. They came out and developed a system to paint the data for the public, and they started building propagandas around it. So it's a whole lot of data that was used to build up the propaganda. So, but we had that conversation. It was all in the news. But before this time, there was 2014. The same threat actor or the nation state actor that they claim to have been the one doing this work had perfected this game. Yeah, they've perfected this conversation. They have a framework, they tested it out. So it worked somewhere. So I'm going to be calling out some kind of ways and approach they used to plan that. So 2 months before the election in Ukraine, they created a couple of personas. Personas are like avatars that are going to be on the internet, and they are going to be the face, and they're going to take responsibility for whatever that happens. So they built a personnel around this. These people came out and said they are one group, they are one activist group, and blah, blah, blah. And they started the campaign. So the campaign was targeted to the servers, they targeted the Electoral Commission, they targeted the social media, they targeted the people directly, and they were able to capture a whole lot of confusion into people's mind. So at the end of the day, nobody was even paying attention to this conversation. But when it happens in the US, it becomes something that everybody wants to know. But these guys did not stop there. They moved forward to France and did something similar. These are bigger conversations that we can look deeper into. These attributions are core attributions. We have companies like CrowdStrike. We have companies like FireEye. They participated in all of these things. So when you see a government or a state, a nation state coming out to attribute an attack, there are a whole lot of conversation to it. A lot of things have happened in the background before they say, okay, this the person that is doing this or that is responsible. So in between the line, 2014, 2015, we have our own Nigerian election. In 2015, there is a conversation which I'm going to show us. In 2019, there is another conversation which I'm going to show us. So rounding up, we're going to be able to see that. Now, between 2017 and 2019, there is a yellow dot, which I want us to take note. We are going to go back to that yellow dot. So in each of these cases, they were able to use online personnel. They kind of spread propagandas. They kind of shared a lot of misinformation campaign just to disrupt people's mindset. But do we know about this? How many of us have heard of this name? Yes. This is the personnel that claim to have been the one behind the attack of the Ukrainian presidential election in 2014. This is Guccifer 2.0. Who knows about this personnel? This is the personnel that claims to have been behind the US presidential election act. Who know about these people? Called APT 28. These are inside, yes, yeah, somebody is saying these are Russian, yes. So inside this you can see we have like three, inside this very particular APT, I'm going to be mentioning a couple of things. We have FSB, we have GRU, we have Unit 74455. You can check out those things. Take your time, go through them, do Wikipedia, you will enjoy the stories, you will know what these guys are doing and how capable they are. So these are people that are taking responsibilities and they come with different personnel. So now, looking at it, there's an attack model I want us to observe. Look, we have fake personnel, we have propaganda campaign, we have DDoS and data theft, we have manipulation and public release of stolen data, and we have malware and fraudulent election data. So then at the end of the day, that one point in the black is the deflection campaign. No country will come out and tell you that. Everybody will deny, like deny after fact. Everybody will deny. So immediately there's going to be like, we can find you, you are the one. You see this coming up. Deflection campaign everywhere, telling you that we don't know what happened, we don't know what happened. And they are going to bring that out as another form of propaganda that will lead the media. Now, can you check this tweet, please? This is very interesting. You can go on your phone and put this, just put INEC website hack, Twitter, put it on your phone. Everybody should try and do that. When you find this tweet, go and check the replies of this tweet and see what I'm saying from what we have understood in this conversation. INEC on 2015 tweeted, this is on the day of election in 2015, they hacked our website, right? But when we look at it, we are just looking at it from the perspective of website. There is a bigger story to this. Now, you can read this reply and see the kind of doubt they are casting in people's mind. It is a website they asked, not the server, or we are not even doing electronic election. But what people were saying in the reply was that, hope they will not change the result. Hope they will not. Go and read this. You will see all of those things. And that is the goal. That is the objective. They want to ensure that they diminish the trust you have in the system that is responsible to take that out for you. Now, in 2015, this is the yellow dot I ask you to note. In 2015, you can see Nigeria there, right? That same year, 2 years, that's 3 years after the 2015 election, there was a breakout of Cambridge Analytica. How many of us did not know about that campaign? There's a scandal, Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal. It becomes a very interesting topic across the globe. But when we want to take it further in Nigeria, this is what we are doing about this conversation. I want us to just take like maybe a minute to, if we can manage to read that. So our new media in Nigeria, they were talking about data privacy and all sorts of things. They skew the conversation away from the fact that yes, there is a foreign influence and there are people that are responsible doing something. Do you know, in the conversation of the Cambridge Analytica scandal, there was a conversation from the whistleblower that some people decided to come from Nigeria to visit the company, and they are willing to pay $2 million for them to be able to provide deflections in the way people will think around the election. These are bigger campaigns. These are bigger pictures. But we need to continue to kind of let our media people understand that there's a bigger picture to this story, as you can see. So in Nigeria, people were not talking about the foreign influence. People were talking about the privacy of data, but it is beyond that. So I'm just picking this so that we can know. 2019 election, we have the Saga. How many of us knew about that? That article went to court and was claiming that yes, there is a server at INEC, and yes, we have this. Imagine all these things that we have here, they are technical data. So if somebody can claim that he has this technical data, what do you think is happening here? So these things are already with us, but nobody's talking about it. That's just what I want us to know moving forward. So in 2023, what will happen and what can happen? Or is it happening already? Or has it started? It has started, whether we like it or not. People are out there. Cambridge Analytica are companies. We have companies like that handle campaigns of presidential across the world. And Cambridge Analytica, SCL election, a lot of them, they are together doing all of these things. So if you go online today, what you are seeing is beyond the fake news. What you are seeing is beyond the fact that somebody is discrediting a candidate. There is more story to those things. You have to look deeper. So to quickly round up, what can we do as person? We have to start questioning everything we see around us. Everything. From this moment forward, we have to start doing that. Then political parties need to start preparing. What we have not experienced in Nigeria is that they've not started throwing out political data so that we can see, and that will start shifting our mindset. Maybe somebody will do it in 2023. Election commissions need to start beeping up. We cannot continue to hide under the pretense of there is no attack. We know what is going on. So we have to start doing something. If we cannot protect the computers, how about protecting our people, ourselves, the system itself? We have to start looking at the citizens. This time around, you are not buying antivirus. No, you have to be in the know. Your awareness is the first line of defense. You knowing that, yes, the risk is out there is the first line of defense. You have to be conscious. You have to know that these things are out there. Then you have to look at the government. The government needs to take a bigger moving with this. Then on the last part, the media needs to stay responsible and stay ethics on that. Today, when you go online and you read some of our national dailies, you'll be disappointed in the stories you see. They just pick stories from social media and still put it under their own platforms, and that will be it. You'll not even get to see what is happening. So we have to change this narrative around. So I'm leaving us with these books, these movies, for us to go and explore and get to understand more of what is happening and how nation states are no longer waiting for people to finish, but they are already doing these things. Thank you very much.